So, what are the Legislative Counsel Digest keys? Well, each bill in the California Legislature contains certain features, such as a title, an enacting clause, the author's name, bill number, and the Legislative Counsel's Digest, which explains what existing law is and what changes to existing law this particular bill would make. After the conclusion of the digest, there is a line of 4 keys called the digest keys. They are vote, appropriation, fiscal committee, and local program. So let's go through each of these keys and the 4 areas that they cover and the determinations made by the Legislative Counsel Bureau for each bill that they draft. So the first key is the vote key. And this naturally is, what is the vote requirement for the bill to pass? In other words, what vote threshold must be met? Most bills pursuant to the Constitution require a simple majority for passage. That's 21 votes in the 40-member Senate, of course, and 41 votes in the 80-member Assembly. But there are other vote thresholds. The second largest number is 2/3, required for tax increases and urgency clause, but we even have them as 4/5 for some measures. These different vote thresholds are found in the California Constitution or the Government Code or elsewhere. And the key specifies again which vote is required for the bill to pass the floors, not the committee. Passing out of the committee is always a majority vote, regardless of a higher vote threshold in the digest key. Appropriations. This is a simple one. Does the bill appropriate funds? Yes or no? If the bill results in an appropriation from the general fund of the state or any special funds, then there's an appropriation, and the key is yes. The no, of course, means that the bill doesn't appropriate funds. The third key is the fiscal committee designation. And this is not made by the legislature. This determination is made by the Office of Legislative Counsel pursuant to Joint Rule 10.5. So if the Legislative Counsel determines that a bill is properly keyed fiscal, then the measure is supposed to be re-referred to the Appropriations Committee in each House after passage from the Policy Committee. Ultimately, a fiscal committee can waive off the hearing, that it doesn't have jurisdiction or there's an inconsequential amount. And they can also ask for the Rules Committee to refer a bill to consider any potential fiscal consequences if the Appropriations Committee believes that a bill has some sort of fiscal effect. But the yes or no designation in the digest key is made by the Office of Legislative Counsel. In Joint Rule 10.5, there are 4 specified instances where a bill is to be keyed fiscal. First one is a bill that appropriates money. That's easy to determine, as we know. The second is when there's been a substantial expenditure of state money proposed by the bill. The third is a bill that would result in a substantial increase or loss of revenue to the state. This bill might be the creation of a new tax credit or exemption that results in revenue loss to the state, or one that creates a new tax or repeals an existing tax credit or exemption, and it would result in an increase in revenue for the state. And the fourth is a bill that results in reduction of expenditures related to a state agency, program, or function. For example, does it reduce or transfer or even eliminate an existing program or an agency or some sort of function of state government? In all those instances, pursuant to Joint Rule 10.5, the key would say yes after fiscal committee. The fourth and final key is designated local program. That's also a yes or no. And the California Constitution requires the state to reimburse local agencies and school districts for certain costs when those costs have been mandated by the state. And if the Commission on State Mandates determines that the bill contains costs so mandated by the state, then the commission makes reimbursement pursuant to certain statutory provisions found in the California Government Code. One of the most common examples is when a bill expands the definition of a crime. It imposes a state mandated local program. It is a secondary question whether or not those costs are reimbursable or not. So those are the 4 Legislative Counsel Digest keys.